he was talking about these theories revolving around the Kennedy assassination on the 33rd latitude. He didn't name Downard in that book, but not long afterwards, it was like in the mid-'70s, Jim Brandon put out a audio cassette series called Sirius Rising, where he interviewed Downard, all the strangeness surrounding the contacts with beings from Sirius, and that somehow there was like some conspiracy they were directing here on Earth. And this kind of mythology has evolved over the years. There's a lot. Philip K. Dick, for one, believed he had been contacted from certain entities from Sirius. So there was a legend about James Shelby Downard, and apparently Michael Anthony Hoffman and Jim Brandon finally met up with him in like the late 70s, and he was kind of a reclusive character, older Southerner who traveled around the country in towing his Airstream trailer and keeping a Colt 45 at his side because he believed the Freemasons were after him, and he was also a researcher into Fortean phenomenon, these type of things. Now, a lot of people over the years claim that he's such a larger-than-life character that he was a literary creation, and so I started looking into those theories, and the evidence at first seemed to point that perhaps he was, that the likes of Michael Anthony Hoffman and Jim Brandon and later Adam Parfrey kind of created Downard basically, as a literary vehicle. But the more into it, the more evidence I came across, it became obvious after a while that Downard was a real flesh and blood human being who died about a decade ago.
Well, of course, I read I read the book The Carnivals of Life and Death, which was sort of like autobiography of his younger years, as it were. Unfortunately, we don't have anything for his later life, at least that was produced by him. But I'm familiar with the idea that he was just an invention and someone that they could pin sort of these sort of wacky, obscure ideas onto. But in the Carnivals of Life and Death, he makes it clear, like right from the very beginning, that everything is sort of run by the Masons, that the Freemasons are sort of behind everything. And at least he had been chosen to be sort of like a sacrificial goat in a lot of their occult rituals and things like this. And one person...
Really...
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, he was really, if you believe the tall tales that come out of that book, he describes his early encounters with Freemasons, and his family were involved, and he was subjected to abuse at a very early age, 3-4 years old. But, that's kind of the same stories you hear from MK Ultra and Monarch survivors, and this was going on, kind of around the turn of the century, in the teens or so, last century, of course. And basically he comes across, if his story is true, as one of the first mind control victims, at least of the modern age.
Yeah,
anyway.
In one particular part of the book, he talks about some sort of antenna system that was already set up. I forget exactly where. It might have been Louisiana, or I think it was in Louisiana, that was actually used for mind control purposes for factory workers or something like that. And this would have been like in the 20s. So yeah, it's really way out there. As far as that goes. To think...
Go ahead. He claimed that his wife And he doesn't really, I don't believe he refers to her as his wife in the literature, but let's see, what did he call her? Basically, she's kind of like a whore of Babylon.
Yes.
Scarlet Woman for the intelligence agencies. I'm forgetting exactly what the moniker he used, but this was indeed his wife, and her name, I have learned, was Anne Whitweir. And, there's some leads like this you could follow, and he talks about that in the audio series, which has reappeared here in recent years, that Sirius Rising series that Jim Brandon, a.k.a. William Grimstad, put out. Michael Anthony Hoffman was offering that for a short period of time, and I was able to obtain the series, but part of the agreement with obtaining it is you can't share it with anyone. So.
Okay, well,
but it's fascinating hearing Downard speak on that audio cassette series. But anyway, this woman who was his wife, who was stolen from him, Anne Whitweir, and she became like this plaything of these spooks, these intelligence agents, Freemasons, Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, who are involved in OTO-type magical rituals, and they stole his wife from him and used her, and basically he discovered some type of telemetry device that he pulled out of her ass, I believe is the story.
Oh, really?
And this was in the 30s or so, and he talks about that in one of his essays. I can't remember the name of the essay. It's in the Secret and Suppressed anthology. But
yes.
he was saying these spooks were, were using some of this basically type of high-tech mind control devices way back then. And of course, that's what you always hear about the technology, is we don't really hear it about the technology until it's been in use for many, many years.
Yes, and I think it's sort of like a byword amongst people who investigate this sort of thing, that the technology that's in the public sphere is usually like decades behind that which is developed by the government and or in secret that we don't get to see. So I mean the basic premise is certainly plausible in one sense, but boy, it's really if any of those stories are true, it really is a frightening visage of what kind of like control grid that they're trying to set up. But I found a little thing here in your book where he does refer to her as the Great Whore.
That was it, yes.
Yeah, and her name was Whitweir, which I guess, that could be an interesting avenue to go down. And he described her as a Memphis belle who performed call to chaos rites from coast to coast in the good old USA and in some foreign countries too, including Haiti, with her Circean cup of licentiousness that contained an aphrodisiac and an abulic drug that in small doses produces transit loss of willpower and lacunar amnesia and or localized amnesia. In large doses, it can produce abulomania, whatever the hell that is, permanent loss of willpower and permanent amnesia. A person so poisoned is a zombie. So, it kind of surprises me because, a lot of times when you look at, bizarre characters like this, it surprises me that anybody would end up married to this person, because you can't imagine them really living a normal life. It seems like their entire, construct of a world around them is like their whole thing. Would they have anything left to contribute to a relationship, So it kind of makes you wonder if maybe she was just put there. But you could go down a real deep rabbit hole with Downard, that's for sure. But the other thing I wanted to... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say I only scratched the surface with that book. That's why you referred to it as small, and indeed it is. It was one of those things that I was kind of working on for a number of years, and I set it aside, and there might have been a period where I didn't work on it for a year and a half, so it was kind of a slow process. But the deal was you could only find so much biographical information about Downard, so I kind of weaved in some of my own theories and ideas, and finally put something out. I think it's a decent book, but somebody could spend a lot more time and follow out some more leads and get into more, of Downard's background. It's just kind of difficult. He had a sister he lived with in Nashville, and she's probably quite old now too. So it's kind of so long in time, so much time has passed. It'd probably be a difficult chore at this point. But anyway.
Well, I wouldn't. I wouldn't take the comment, a little book as anything indicating a lack of scholarly work on your part, because the book is really, really good. And just because it's small doesn't mean it doesn't give you a lot of information. So,
it's
I wanted
definitely
to.
Not a complete.
Well, no, it's not. Yeah. But if anybody wanted to get that, they could read Carnals of Life and Death to get a further background on him, and then of course if anybody wanted to do some additional research, that's certainly possible. But I really enjoyed the book. I thought it was really good. There are a couple of things that I wanted to bring up to you just to get your take on them, because they're just so bizarre and strange. Regarding Downard. And one is the several times in the Carnivals of Life and Death where he talks about being saved from imminent death by javelina pigs. And for the life of me, I can't figure out the pig reference and why and what the significance is of this. It's almost as like he's saying that the pigs represent some, opposing force, perhaps. And they're like, looking out for him as the sacrificial scapegoat for the Masonic occult rituals. I mean, it's really bizarre. In the one instance, he was like, I don't know, it was a firehouse, I think, and the guy there was threatening to throw him out back to let the pigs eat him. And I guess they were really nasty pigs, and they threw him out there. But he was able to make his way through the pen of the vicious pigs, and they didn't bother him at all. And there was another time where, go ahead.
He prevailed.
He always won.
Yeah.
He defeated every one of their nefarious schemes. That's that kind of like if there's anything that really you have to say kind of knocks it into the territory of being full blown. It's the idea that they never were able to get him in any of their sneak traps.
Yeah.
And unless he's just not telling us of the times when he failed, which I guess is possible. But the other thing was the story of Tom Mix, the real Tom Mix.
Remember
that
memory.
Particular story?
Refresh my memory.
Okay, well, I guess he would have been about 12 years old, and I forget where he was living at the time, but he was on his way home, I believe, but I guess he had a premonition that something was going to happen, or because of events leading up to it, he decided that it was a good idea to have some protection with him. So he fashioned a weapon